What's going on, everybody? Shonen Express here, coming to you with another weekly newsletter. So I'm excited to be doing these every single week as the magazine comes out because I'm a huge fan of Shonen Jump. I love just talking about it. So yeah, here we go. So the cover this week was Mashley Magic and Muscles, which I'm not a huge fan of that manga in general. However, it was good to see it get the cover. I like that some of these less mainstream manga are getting the cover. It seems like they are pushing some of these, kind of, I would say like medium level manga. So like, around 30 chapters or so. Stuff like Mashley, Undead Unluck. It seems like the magazine is kind of pushing them more to the forefront and kind of take some of the spotlight there, which I think is a good push, and I think we should encourage that. But it was good to see Mashley get the cover. It was a really good chapter. It was a very cool chapter for Mashley this week. Doesn't make my top 3, but it was very cool. And I wouldn't take that away from it. I liked seeing, kind of the conclusion, or at least what looks like the conclusion to one of the main fights in the series so far. So that was cool to see, I thought. I enjoyed that. There's nothing new in the magazine this week. No new manga came out, so there's nothing to really discuss there. Also, nothing ended this week, so there's no final chapters that we need to discuss either. There are a couple manga that I'm getting a little concerned are gonna end, and I'm some of the manga in this magazine right now I think could end, and that would be fine. But there's some of it just. Some of these series do some scary things. I'm getting a little scared about Undead Unluck. I'm a huge Undead Unluck fan, and that's freaking me out a little bit. I think they might end up jumping ship, but it's but yeah, there's nothing ending this week, and so hopefully, as we continue to go forward, eventually some of these things will weed themselves out. So, but we do have a series that was on break this week. So One Piece was on break again this week. It was on break last week, as you all know. And it was on break again this week. I love One Piece. It's my favorite manga in Weekly Shonen Jump by far. So I can't wait to have it back. But it will be coming back next week. Oda was sick, but apparently is fine now. He's recovered, and he's back to doing the crazy Oda lifestyle of like 3 hours of sleep to crank this manga out. So nothing to worry about there. Oda's back on his grind, and we're going to get some more One Piece next week, and I'm super excited about that. There was no one-shots or specials this week either, so kind of a pretty basic week for Weekly Shonen Jump. So that leads into talking about my top 3 and bottom 3. So we'll start like I did last time. We will start with the top 3. And so number 3 this week was My Hero Academia. I really this was actually hard. The top 3 was hard for me this week, and the bottom 3 was too, but we'll get to that later. My Hero Academia was really good this week, and again, I feel that if I was more attached to Black Clover, I feel like that could have beaten this out this week. But Undead Unluck was also amazing. But My Hero Academia was the one that I thought was the best. I think we're coming to a head with this story, and we got a lot of things explained to us about, One for All and All for One and how quirk sharing works and all that. So I really enjoyed that, and I kind of enjoyed. It seems like we're coming to the end of this arc, and so I'm excited about that. I'm excited to see what Toga has to ask Ochako and Deku, but it was a good chapter. All things considered, I think it was a good chapter. Number 2 for me this week, a surprise number 2. I didn't think I would like it this much, was Phantom Seer. And so Phantom Seer is a pretty new manga in the magazine. But I really like it. If you remember, I used to, back when it was coming out, I reviewed every chapter of Tokyo Shinobi Squad because I enjoyed that manga as well. This is by the same people. It's by the same author and illustrator as Tokyo Shinobi Squad was, and you can kind of tell that by looking at it. It's got a very similar art style, but I like the premise. I think it's a cool premise, and I think as it goes further, it's just getting cooler and cooler. There's some new takes on like how the different yokai kind of work that is interesting. And I always like seeing new takes on yokai, new takes on things like that. I like seeing variations in that, and I think specifically the variations that Phantom Seer comes up with are pretty cool. This week was a really cool chapter with that Phantom coming up out of the bottom, and we finally see Yayoi, which is what I'm going to call her. I'm not sure if that's how you pronounce that name. So the older sister kind of in charge of this group of shamans. We see her use her ability, and it was just super cool. So it was too much for me not to put it up high here on the list. So yeah, number 2 for me this week, Phantom Seer, which leads us to number 1 this week was Magu-chan, God of Destruction. This may never happen again, but I really like this manga. I've always kind of felt good about this manga. It gives me like good vibes. It's a good kind of like, feel-good manga, and this chapter was just perfect. It was, they find this dog, and their interactions with the dog, Megu training the dog, and Ruru kind of like their attachment to this dog, and then they find the dog's family, and they have to give it up, and it's just, it was like, I was like actually had some real emotion invested in this chapter, and so I just had to put it at number 1 this week. I really liked it, so, yep, number 1 it goes. Magu-chan, God of Destruction. We may never see that happen again, but it did happen this time, so that is my number 1 this week. So let's go to the bottom 3 now. So, my number 3 on the bottom list. So like not my least favorite, right? We're going from more favorite to least favorite on this list. So my number 3 worst manga this week was Chainsaw Man, and I hate to put this here, but I felt like I had to. And the reason is not because I didn't necessarily think it was a good chapter. I love Chainsaw Man. I think it's a great story, but this week was so confusing to me. I had to read it like twice just to kind of figure out what the action was. This was an almost entirely action-oriented chapter. There were cool things about this. It was a cool fight, but this was an entirely action-oriented chapter, and Chainsaw Man is a manga that is very hard for me to kind of decipher if I'm not already in that mode, and so it just took me a while. It was tough to read, and that's why it found its way onto the bottom 3. But it was still good, and Chainsaw Man's still a great series, so definitely check it out if you haven't. But it was just, it was very confusing for me this week. But that brings us to my number 2 least favorite this week, which is Mission Yozakura Family. This is another manga that I really like, that I hate to see on the bottom, but here it is. My problem with Mission Yozakura Family has always been its lack of consistency. It's like lack of being able to find its correct lighting, and I think that this was a prime example. This chapter was like pretty much a joke chapter. I do want to say one thing that I kind of like, and this is kind of like a special thing, but Mission Yozakura Family had for its I think it was 1 year anniversary. It had its like you could submit spy designs to the author, and he would put them in the magazine, and so we got to see all those spy designs. All those spies that we saw this week were submissions from somebody in Tokyo, and not Tokyo, Japan in general. And that's cool to me. I like audience interaction like that, but it wasn't my favorite. It wasn't my favorite this week. It was mainly a joke thing, and it was mainly a whole chapter just designed to show off these fan submitted spy drawings. So it was okay, but, it wasn't my favorite. So it ends up down here at number 2. And number 1, my least favorite thing this week is, no surprise, Ayakashi Triangle. For those of you who know me, you've watched some of my videos, I'm not a big fan service fan, which really kind of makes me question why I'm reading Ayakashi Triangle in the first place. But I like the framework of Ayakashi Triangle, but it was just a ton of fan service this week. I mean, there were like so many things that were just unnecessary, things that were just fan servicey again, and I'm just not here for that. And so it's not going to be my favorite, and it's in fact it's going to be my least favorite almost every time. So that's where we ended up with Ayakashi Triangle this week at the bottom. But yeah, and as far as like other news goes this week, I mean, episode 2 of Jujutsu Kaisen anime came out this week. I'd definitely encourage you to check that out, as I did last week. If you have trouble understanding the manga of Jujutsu Kaisen, definitely go ahead and take a look at the anime. I have a feeling that they're gonna be a little easier to understand than maybe the manga is. But it is a really good manga. Definitely give Jujutsu Kaisen a read. That was really hard to kick off this list. It was so close to making this list because it was a really good chapter. I really want to know what's going to happen to Nobara. But anyway, that's maybe for another day. But thank you guys so much for listening. If you liked anything I had to say, please like the video. Leave a comment down in the comment section. I'd love to chat with you about what you kind of think about the magazine, any series that you really like, and all that stuff. So I'd love to chat with you down in the comment section. But subscribe to my channel because I'm planning on doing these newsletters every single week, as well as bringing you other videos. If you haven't already, check out my Ling video. I just put that out this weekend, and I enjoy philosophical analysis like that, so take a look at my Ling video. Also, if you're not already on it, we just put out the last episode of the Pillow Fort podcast, or at least for now, we just finished Hunter x Hunter. So definitely, if you're into Hunter x Hunter, check that out. It's great. But yeah, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you guys next time. But for now, this is Shonen Express, signing out.